Something feels off lately, doesn't it? You can't explain it, but the life you're living suddenly feels too small. The people around you feel distant. The things that used to matter don't. Most will dismiss that feeling. Call it stress, burnout, a phase. But what if it's not? What if it's a signal, a quiet knock from the future you're meant to become? And what if ignoring it is the reason you keep feeling stuck? You didn't click this video by chance. You're here because something inside you already knows. Change is coming, and whether you're ready or not, life is shifting. Today I'll walk you through 8 powerful signs that most people miss. Signs that your current chapter is ending and a new one is waiting. But here's the catch. Only those who notice them in time evolve. The rest, they repeat. So if you want to be the first type, stick with me. Because once you recognize these signs, you'll never see your life the same way again. Number 1. You feel a deep sense of restlessness. What if nothing around you has changed, yet somehow everything feels off? You still live in the same home, work the same job, talk to the same people, but lately there's this nagging sense that you're drifting. Like your days are repeating on a loop and you're just playing along without meaning. This isn't about being tired. It's not a rough week or a need for a vacation. It's something deeper. A quiet discomfort that builds in silence. A feeling that your life as it is no longer fits who you're becoming. That's restlessness. And it's not your enemy. It's your inner compass shaking you awake. Most people ignore it. They call it a phase. They distract themselves with more work, more noise, more scrolling. But this unease is not something to suppress. It's the first crack in the shell you've been living inside. And once it forms, no matter how hard you try, you can't go back to feeling content in the same old routines. It's like wearing shoes that are one size too small. They might have fit when you bought them, but now they pinch, they bruise, they slow you down. The pain doesn't mean something's wrong with your feet. It means it's time for a new pair. Restlessness works the same way. It shows up when you've outgrown your current life. When your values shift, your vision expands, but your surroundings stay the same. And that mismatch creates friction. You start to feel it in conversations that no longer interest you, in goals that once mattered but now seem hollow, in relationships that feel stuck in repeat. If you ignore this sign, life will eventually step in for you. It might look like a failed project, a broken bond, or a sudden loss. But these aren't punishments, they're course corrections. This unease isn't here to ruin your life. It's here to redirect it. And the sooner you stop fighting that feeling, the sooner you can start asking better questions. What is no longer serving me? What am I ready to let go of? What future is quietly calling my name? Because when restlessness shows up, it's rarely wrong. It means the current chapter is closing, and something far more aligned is waiting to begin. Number 2. You're losing people rapidly. One of the strangest signs that your life is shifting is silence. Not the kind you choose, but the kind that comes when people around you start fading without a clear reason. The calls stop. The conversations dry up. People you once considered close seem distant, unavailable, cold. At first, it feels personal. You wonder, did I do something wrong? You replay old messages, overthink every word you said. But here's a truth most people overlook. This isn't rejection. It's transition. When you begin changing, when your mindset shifts, your habits improve, your vision expands, there's a ripple effect. Some people won't resonate with the newer version of you. Not because you're better, but because you're becoming different. And different makes them uncomfortable. People rarely leave when things stay the same. They leave when your growth makes them question their own stagnation. Sometimes they don't know why they're pulling away. They just feel something's off. But what's really off is the connection that used to thrive on who you were, not who you're becoming. It's painful, yes, but it's also proof. Proof that you're moving in a direction not everyone is meant to follow. Think of a rocket lifting off. The boosters that once pushed it upward have to detach when it reaches a certain height. Not because they failed, but because they're no longer useful at that altitude. The same goes for relationships. Some people helped you get here. That doesn't mean they're meant to go further with you. Still, the temptation to hold on is strong. You might try to fix what's fading, revive dead conversations, or shrink yourself to make others comfortable again. But that comes at a cost: your progress. If you cling to people who only support a version of you that no longer exists, you'll delay what's meant for the one you're becoming. Letting go isn't easy, but losing people isn't always a loss. Sometimes it's life clearing the path for what's next. So when people start slipping away, don't panic, don't chase. Just pause and recognize what it really means. You're rising, and not everyone is meant to rise with you. Number 3. Strange synchronicities keep happening. Have you ever had a moment where the same number, word, or name just keeps showing up again and again until you start to wonder if it's more than just coincidence? At first, it's easy to brush off. You look at the clock, and it's 11:11. You see the same phrase pop up in different conversations. A song you haven't heard in years suddenly follows you around. You think about someone from your past, and they call you out of nowhere. It feels strange, but not random. It feels intentional. These aren't accidents. These are signals. When your life is on the edge of transformation, your mind begins picking up patterns that your old self was too distracted to notice. These patterns, often subtle, show up just when you need direction most. You can call it intuition, alignment, energy, but at its core, it's your attention tuning into a deeper frequency. Imagine it like a radio. The music was always playing, but you just weren't on the right station. Once you tune in, everything sounds clear and strangely personal. Synchronicities often appear when you're being nudged toward a new path. They don't shout, they whisper. They show up just enough to get your attention and just quiet enough that you can ignore them, if you want to. But here's the catch. Most people do ignore them. They notice the patterns, feel the curiosity, and then scroll past it. They go back to autopilot and wonder later why they missed their moment. These signs don't come with instructions. They come with presence. Your job isn't to overthink them, it's to notice them, to pause, reflect. Ask yourself, what was I thinking when this showed up? What decision am I sitting on? What fear am I avoiding? Because these signals are not here to entertain you, they're here to move you. And if you don't move, they stop showing up. Not because life stops guiding you, but because you've stopped paying attention. So if strange synchronicities have been happening more than usual, don't ignore them. They don't mean you're crazy. They mean you're closer than you think to the shift you've been waiting for. And the only question is, will you follow where they lead or go back to pretending it was just a coincidence? Number 4, unexpected opportunities appear. Sometimes the biggest doors don't knock. They just swing open, and it's on you to notice them before they close again. You weren't planning for it. You weren't even asking for it. But out of nowhere, something shows up. An offer, a connection, a possibility. It's confusing. It feels unearned. Your first instinct might be to brush it off, thinking, why now? I'm not ready. But maybe that's exactly the point. When life begins to shift, it rarely announces itself with a grand gesture. It whispers. And those whispers often come in the form of chances that don't make logical sense, but feel oddly right. Not because you're fully prepared, but because something inside you is already evolving, faster than your mind can catch up. The truth is, most people miss these moments. Why? Because they hesitate. They overthink. They wait for confirmation or guarantees. And while they're busy waiting, the train moves on. You don't get a second signal. No flashing lights, just silence and regret. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." The unexpected path is not a detour. It's often the very route you were meant to walk, but only if you have the courage to say yes before everything makes sense. See, opportunities are not rewards, they are invitations. Not to prove who you are, but to become someone you've never been. And that's what makes them so terrifying and so necessary. If your life lately has been full of random nudges, strange invitations, or open doors you didn't expect, pay attention. That's not chaos, that's alignment. You can either talk yourself out of it, or you can step forward with steady hands, knowing that clarity often comes after commitment, not before. So next time life hands you something unexpected, don't just ask, "Am I ready?" Ask instead, "What if this is the moment I stop playing small and step into the version of me I've always known I could become?" Because the longer you wait, the more likely you are to lose the very thing that was meant to change everything. Number 5. You feel a strange urge to do something new. Have you ever sat in your car, parked in the same driveway, looked at your front door, and felt like it belonged to a life you've already outgrown? Maybe lately you've been staring at job boards, not because you hate your job, but because something inside you whispers you're meant for more. Or maybe you've caught yourself scrolling through videos about van life, small towns, or starting a business, things you've never seriously considered before. And yet, the thought won't leave you alone. You might feel pulled to sign up for a martial arts class, even though you've never thrown a punch in your life. Or you suddenly crave learning how to play the piano, despite being too old and too busy. It doesn't make sense, and that's what makes it real. That strange pull, that quiet but persistent urge, isn't just curiosity. It's a signal. Something inside you is trying to lead you somewhere new, somewhere bigger. The truth is, when your current life no longer matches your potential, your body and mind start sending out warning signs. It starts as restlessness, then boredom, then the desire to break free from even the things you once prayed for. Most people dismiss it. They tell themselves to be grateful, to not rock the boat, to wait until they feel more certain. But life doesn't hand you a roadmap. It gives you instincts, and it's your job to trust them. Picture a tree growing inside a flower pot. At first, the roots settle nicely. But as it grows, the very thing that once nurtured it becomes a cage. Unless it's replanted, it won't just stop growing, it will start dying. Seneca once said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." And one of the most tragic wastes of time is silencing the call to evolve. You don't need to uproot your whole life today, but you do need to stop pretending the urge isn't there. Write it down. Talk to someone you trust. Take one small, imperfect action, because that strange urge, that's not your imagination. It's your future self calling you forward. Will you pick up? Number 6. Obstacles are suddenly everywhere. You ever notice how the second you decide to change your life, everything starts falling apart? You commit to waking up earlier and suddenly you're sleeping worse than ever. You start eating clean, and that's when your office starts bringing donuts every morning. You finally sit down to build your dream project, and your internet crashes, your dog gets sick, and your calendar somehow triples in chaos. At first, it feels like the universe is mocking you, like the world was fine with your old life, but the moment you try to evolve, it pushes back. Hard. And here's the twist. That resistance, that sudden wave of complications, it's not a sign that you're failing. It's confirmation that you're moving. Change, real change, isn't smooth. It's disruptive. It shakes the foundation of everything familiar, and what doesn't align with your growth will fight to stay in place. This includes habits, environments, and sometimes even people. Take Adam, a client I once coached. He'd spent years working a safe job he hated. One day, he finally put in his 2 weeks' notice to launch his own design agency. The week after, his landlord raised the rent, his car broke down, and his parents told him he was making a huge mistake. He was inches from pulling the plug. But deep down, he knew these weren't signs to stop. They were tests. Obstacles don't just appear to block you. They show up to shape you. They refine your commitment. They ask you, how bad do you really want this? There's a powerful line by Epictetus. Difficulties are things that show a person what they are. You don't really meet yourself until you're under pressure. You don't know the strength of your purpose until it's challenged from every direction. What if the obstacles you're facing right now aren't meant to turn you around, but to slow you down just enough to build resilience, so that when your moment comes, you're truly ready? Think of a spaceship re-entering Earth's atmosphere. It hits the most resistance right before breakthrough. That heat, that turbulence, it's part of the journey. Without it, it would never make it home. So if your path suddenly feels like it's lined with bricks and barbed wire, don't panic. Don't assume you're off course. You might be closer to transformation than you realize. This is where most people give up, 5 minutes before everything clicks. Don't be that person. Instead, take one step through the resistance, then another. Because once you learn to see obstacles not as punishment, but as preparation, your entire story changes. And when that shift happens, your new life doesn't just begin, it accelerates. Number 7. You start seeing the truth about people and situations. There comes a moment in your life when things stop making sense, not because the world has changed, but because you have. It doesn't hit you like a storm. It creeps in like a quiet whisper, a subtle shift in the way you perceive everything. The conversations you used to breeze through now feel hollow. The people you once admired, something about them feels off. You begin to notice what you've ignored for far too long. That friend who always had something nice to say, but only when you were struggling, now feels like a shadow dressed in smiles. That coworker who claps for you in public but grimaces when your back is turned. It's like you've finally adjusted the lens and the blur is gone. You start picking up on the micro expressions, the half-hearted cheers, the energy that never matched the words. It's a raw awakening, and it shakes you. You ask yourself, were they always like this? The uncomfortable answer is yes. The truth didn't suddenly arrive. You just weren't ready to see it before. Your progress has sharpened your sight. What used to be background noise is now loud and clear. And it doesn't stop with people. Situations begin to peel back their own layers too. That job you once fought to keep now feels like a golden cage. That routine you thought brought comfort now drains your spirit. You look around and everything that once gave you a sense of belonging starts to feel like it was holding you hostage. You find yourself asking hard questions. Why am I still pretending to enjoy this? Why have I tolerated this for so long? Who would I be if I let it all go? This is your mind waking up, and once it does, there's no going back. You can't unsee betrayal disguised as loyalty. You can't force yourself to feel excitement where only emptiness remains. It's painful. No one talks about that enough. Because seeing the truth isn't empowering at first. It's disorienting. You mourn relationships you thought were real. You grieve dreams that weren't truly yours. And you question the identity you built around things that no longer fit. But here's the turning point. The very fact that you can see the truth now means you're no longer shackled to the illusion. That clarity is your compass. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If someone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake in any thought or action, I shall gladly change. I seek the truth which never harmed anyone. The harm is to persist in one's self-deception and ignorance." Clarity cuts, but it also heals. The old version of you tolerated fake support, manipulative praise, and energy that drained your soul. But this version craves depth, alignment, and authenticity. Don't be afraid if things are falling apart. That's often the prelude to something far greater coming together. When the mask comes off, whether it's on a person, a job, or even a version of yourself, it's not the end. It's the moment life finally invites you to live on your terms. So let the fog lift. Let the truth sting, because what waits on the other side is something you've always deserved. A life that's finally fully yours. Number 8. You feel an unexplainable sense of peace amid the chaos. It doesn't make sense on paper. Your life is shifting, maybe even falling apart in ways you didn't anticipate. People you trusted are fading away. Plans you once held tightly are unraveling, and the familiar ground beneath your feet now feels unstable. For most, this is the kind of moment that invites panic, desperation, or even regression. But for you, there's something else, something strange. Instead of being swallowed by fear, you feel stillness, a quiet strength that doesn't match the noise around you. And that's the sign. You're not numb. You're not in denial. Deep down, you're aware of every uncertain detail. But beneath the storm, there's this inner calm whispering that you're exactly where you're supposed to be, even if nothing around you looks right. This peace, though unexplainable, is powerful. It's a signal, like a lighthouse in heavy fog. You may not see the shore, but something inside is guiding you forward, one quiet breath at a time. This isn't how most people respond to chaos. The usual reaction? Clamp down, control more, desperately cling to what's slipping away. And yet here you are, letting go, not out of weakness, but because something in you knows what's being lost is no longer needed. There's a quote from Epictetus that resonates perfectly here. Seek not for events to happen as you wish, but wish for events to happen as they do, and your life will go smoothly. That's the mindset that emerges in this stage of transformation. Not indifference, but trust. A belief not in blind fate, but in alignment, that the breakdown is clearing space for a breakthrough. You might compare this feeling to a seasoned captain sailing through a storm. The sky darkens, waves crash, but he's not pacing in panic. He stands steady, not because he can control the storm, but because he understands it. He's seen these skies before. He knows storms come to pass. That same knowing lives in you now. And here's what most people miss. That calm you feel is not random. It's not weakness. It's strength. It's clarity. It's the birth of a deeper version of you, one that no longer needs external order to feel internally whole. This is your pivot point. You're not waiting for everything to go back to normal. Because some part of you knows normal was never it. You're done fighting for what no longer fits. You're not chasing answers anymore. You're holding space for something better to arrive. That peace you feel, it's not the absence of struggle. It's the presence of growth. And soon, when the dust settles, you'll realize this wasn't a detour. It was the path. Everything that seemed to fall apart was actually falling into place. So the real question is, are you ready to receive what's coming? If you've noticed even one of these signs in your life, don't brush it off. This isn't just a phase. It's a signal. A quiet whisper that your old life is dissolving, so something greater can emerge. You're not here by accident. You're watching this for a reason. The question is, are you just watching, or are you ready to act? Drop a comment and tell me, which sign hit you the hardest, and what kind of video do you want to see next? Mental toughness, emotional detachment, or reclaiming your personal power? Subscribe now so you never miss what's coming, and remember what Epictetus said, don't explain your philosophy, embody it. Your shift has already begun. Stay awake, stay grounded. The next chapter is calling. Will you answer?